and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa, and today I'm going to be recommending you a bunch of romance books that don't have a third act breakup in them. I don't super dislike the third act breakup trope. It's just sometimes I get stressed out when I'm waiting for it. Conflict of a certain type stresses me out, and also it's kind of tiring when so many romances use the same plot arc type of a thing. So a lot of these will have some other type of conflict where like there's a stalker, or they're fantasy romances, so like there's some kind of fantastical plot going on that allows the plot to do this thing, which is the favored plot for a lot of fiction, as far as that's the level of tension. But some of them just deviate from the classical tension arc, so they go like this or like this, and I like, you know, having a little variety in that area. So my memory isn't perfect. In fact, it can be quite bad sometimes, but there are a number of these that I've read very recently, and several of these others are my favorites, so I remember their plot very well. And other of these I went back and checked. I either had the ebook or could easily get it from my library, so I was able to go quickly and check. So take these recommendations with a grain of salt, but I'm pretty sure that none of these have third act breakups. First of all is the book that inspired this idea, Snowflake by Nia Forrester. So Snowflake is about two college people going to college who live across from each other, and they get snowed in, and that only takes up part of the book. The rest is them voluntarily spending time together and actually going traveling a little bit with each other and learning about each other's families, which is really cool. And it has one of the woo type plots that doesn't have any really huge moment. Then a natural transition. Snowflake was a novella, and so is this, by Nicole Falls, and this is about a young woman who has known her love interest for a couple of years as a employee of her father's, who her father has kind of been trying to set her up with a little bit, and she meets him in a different context and starts spending a little time with him in that context, and that allows for the transition of her feelings from platonic to romantic for him, whereas he's always kind of had a crush on her. Then Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. A fair number of these are from the romance section of the Blackathon, so you'll have heard so I'll have talked about them relatively recently in my February videos. But Indigo is about a former enslaved woman who has indigo hands from working on an indigo plantation where she would crush and process the indigo. And she is now a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and she meets someone who she mostly just maintains her house as a stop, whereas the hero escorts people from one stop to the next. So she meets this guy, and they bond over that, and they have conflicts between them, but they don't have that great big scale one there at the end. Then Bad for the Boss by Talia Hibbert. This is a novella that is an office boss to employee romance that I think she was fairly careful with, making sure that consent was clear and that the boss was very careful with the power imbalance going on there. It has other exciting things going on that they team up with each other against instead of having to have the big conflict be between them. Then Prisoner of Love by Beverly Jenkins, and this is a novella about a guy who was in prison, and he is sort of let out on severance type of a thing because he's going kind of into the custody of this woman he's marrying. So it's kind of complicated in that area. The woman decides to marry him because she needs someone to help on her farm that she will own outright if she can make it profitable within 3 years. And she lives in a majority black town, and we get to watch them bond slowly and also have another external conflict that they can work together against. Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. This one is about a rapper who meets a jeweler because he's buying jewelry, custom jewelry, for his about 15-year-old daughter, and she works on a piece of jewelry for his daughter. This one had one of those less predictable plots that I really wasn't sure where it was going at any time, and it feels like a long, slow process to convince the heroine that she is lovable and deserves love, and is also a melding of families because he has a 15-year-old daughter and she has a 3-year-old. Then there's Radiance by Grace Draven. This one is a fantasy romance about a arranged marriage between a not in line for the throne princess and a not in line for the throne anytime soon prince. And they're from very different cultures and also somewhat different species. As you can see, he's got kind of grayish skin. He also has claws and sharp teeth and eyes without irises or pupils. And his species used to eat humans. So humans tend to find them quite scary, and his people tend to find humans quite just repulsive and ugly. So their romance develops through trying to help each other through a mutually difficult situation, followed by friendship and caring for each other and just seeing how sweet and strong and brave the other person is, and wise in some cases. The physical feelings only come afterwards, which is one of my favorite ways a romance can develop because I'm asexual. And this has an outside force that they are united against, so they don't have to have a big breakup. Similarly, I am fairly certain that Tempest by Beverly Jenkins doesn't have a third act breakup. It is also a marriage of convenience trope where the woman wants to go out to the frontier and the man needs a wife to take care of his house and take care of his kid because his wife he had the kid with died. And there's a lot of snark in this book, and I like that a lot. A lot of Beverly Jenkins books have a lot of good witty banter. Okay, Mark of the Talad by Jeffy Kennedy. I really enjoy the whole Forgotten Realms or something, Uncharted Realms series by Jeffy Kennedy. The first 3 less so. I tend to like them more as they go on. She gets more good at her craft. My favorite 2 are Change of the Tide, Shift of the Tide, and Arrows of the Heart, which are later in the series. Arrows of the Heart and Mark of the Talad, which is the very first book, both don't have a third act breakup. They are fantasy romances with really big epic storylines going on, whereas a lot of fantasy romances have kind of one standalone level plots going on in the background, but this has like really big stuff going on, like kingdoms shifting and falling and stuff like that going on in the background and in the foreground, as it heavily involves the main characters. And I really like the way that she balances those with the romance, and neither element really suffers for having such a major other element. But yeah, there are a few in the series that fit this list. Devil in Disguise by Lisa Kleypas. Lisa Kleypas is one of my favorite historical romance writers. A lot of her books don't fit this list, but this one does. It is about a woman who is a widow and therefore can own a business in the 1860s or so. London, and she meets someone who also runs a business. She has a shipping business and he wants her to ship his alcohol. And the author clearly had a fun time looking up how the Scots made alcohol, because she includes quite a few details on that. But that one actually has a little bit of an amnesia trope, if that's a trope. But we don't have to have the third act breakup because of an outside force they're both dealing with once again. Then we have Seafoam and Silence by S.L. Dove Cooper. This is one of my asexual romances. It's also polyamorous, and it is a partial Little Mermaid retelling, and it's really sweet. I think it's novella length. I love a lot of S.L. Dove Cooper's stuff. Oh, and it's told in verse, so be aware of that. Then we have honorable mentions, which are books that had a minimal / very short breakup that like only lasted a few pages, so it's not super stressful. So one of those is the Serendipitous Love series. These, some of them have bigger breakups than others towards the end, but several of them, as I said in my wrap-ups that feature them, have more weird tension dynamics, what's that called? Arcs, and a lot don't follow the traditional way of doing things, the traditional romance trajectory, so you have more like, you have a lot of conflict, but it doesn't all come to a head right there at the end. The first one has tensions that go on the whole time, but doesn't have that big blow up. The fourth and fifth one, I think, are also like that. Then Devil's Daughter has like a maybe 8-page breakup. That's another of Lisa Kleypas's works. The Serendipitous Love series is by Christina C. Jones. And I really like Devil's Daughter because it is a widower, no, it's a widow with her 2 kids romance. She falls in love with a big, tough farmer guy who is technically part of the nobility, but doesn't act like it very much. And she is a lady who is trying to keep her, technically her son's estate from ruin by updating farming methods, and he's like been learning how to do that with his own brother's estate, so they bond over that and over how sweet he is with the kids, which are so cute. And then The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie by Jennifer Ashley is a autism rep. The hero has is autistic. It's clear that they just need to fix something and then they can be together, an outward force once again. And yeah, so those are my recommendations for books with a lack of that trope. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!